This is Heathcliff, and this is the cooler Heathcliff. We're going to be using the cooler Heathcliff because for some reason there are no bats in this game. Now, considering this is Monster Hunter Wilds and not Demon's Dark Elden Blood Soul, this game should not require hyper-efficient builds to be enjoyable, which means most of the builds that anyone creates should be viable for endgame. Therefore, this video is mostly for the fashion of being the cooler Heathcliff. I will share the build eventually in the video, but I'd rather not receive any actually comments about it being inefficient. Anyways, timestamps are below if you're interested, but for now let's answer the question of what would Monster Hunter Wilds be like if I brought in the Limbus Company's Wild Hunt.
모두가 너를 잊어도 반드시 되찾을 거다. 나를 짓밟아 기억고 캐시화되어 놓은 그 모든 것들을 이 자루 안에 담아서 어디든 지옥 끝까지 끌고 다니며 있는 힘껏 내려칠 거다.
Man, that hunt was intense. What a wild hunt. Wait. Say that again. If your cognitive faculties are still intact, you've likely pieced together the subject of this video. But this time, it's for Heathcliff, the wild hunt, hunting wild in Monster Hunter Wilds. What the fuck was that? And because you can't get a baseball bat in this game, yet, this time it's not for his base ID. Also, despite Capcom crafting some of the most intricately detailed and breathtaking faces in recent games, for some reason they decided that you only get a handful of chances to fix them. Which is why Don Quixote's face is still there. So let's just say she's cosplaying as the other sinners. That's still in character, right? Obviously, as we explore the story and the gameplay from both Monster Hunter and Limbus Company, spoilers are ahead. Also, the full extent of this playstyle can only be unlocked at the very end of the game, due to the required skills being held by the late game monsters. To begin, let's start with the most recent sinner to lose their Heathcliff, more specifically, Wild Hunt Heathcliff. Heathcliff uses an oversized sword that represents the weight of the hatred he has received from the manor that he once called his home. The hate he carries has fueled him and has shaped him into an unstoppable force of nature. Gameplay-wise, he represents this by having skills that debilitate his enemies' capabilities on the field by the way of sinking, and then attacking enemies with sinking gives him a small amount of additional coin power. Seeing as sinking has the potential to stun enemies and makes them sluggish in combat, we can represent this with poison, exhaust, and knockdown damage. So let's talk about skills. You can lean towards the fact that he clashes with everything in Limbus, including his defensive moves, and build towards guard, offensive guard, and resentment. Fortunately, Greatsword represents this really well by having offsets and the counter move of shoulder bashes. He occasionally block 2 for the offensive guard activation and the power clashing mechanic. Seeing as he carries 2 weapons, you can switch between 2 Greatswords. One for applying status, and the other for just raw damage. Limbus traditionally does not offer a way to heal your sinners, but damn, this build hurts a lot, and considering you constantly need to have some degree of damage to have resentment for your own damage boost, and shoulder bashes do not mitigate all of the damage you receive, so you may heal at your own discretion. And seeing as ramping damage and power increase is a mechanic of his kit, I recommend going 2 Guardian Arcveld for minor healing, and 3 Gormagala pieces for an attack boost on Frenzy with Coalescence, which would be the ideal loadout. If we are to be as cool as the cooler Heathcliff, we must remember this silhouette: a long coat, an eye patch, and a scarf. To meet this, we can use the Dragon Eye patch for obvious reasons, the chest for the scarf, and Gormagala arms and waist for that edgy flowing coat look. We can also use the Guild Knight boots for the leggings and obviously the boots. Lastly, for the weapon, I went with the Ruthian Greatsword for the crit status and added crit element with punishing draw for exhaust and poison debuff application. And then I will also be swapping to an Artian weapon for raw damage. You can also go with the Gormagala Greatsword for the more purple look he has in game, and since layered weapons don't exist yet, Let's just hope the monsters you fight will be weak to raw or the dragon element. Start by inflicting the debuffs on the monster with the hit and run crit draw style. Then once you have at least applied a poison effect, hop on your Doulahan and switch to the stat stick to lament, mourn, and despair their asses. While this is where I would tell you not to heal for the Limbus accuracy, this will be incredibly hard as your only source would be the Arkveld wound bonus. While it is doable on Lance due to blocking having a large damage mitigation, shoulder bashes and offset will still drain your HP. And do remember that games are for the fun and playing, and this ain't Dark Souls, so you don't have to suffer to prove a point. Although it would be quite in character for you playing as the spurned master of the manor. Lastly, clash with the monster as much as you can, not only because it's the core mechanic for Limbus Company, but again because it looks totally fucking rad. So there you have it, a Monster Hunter playstyle that perfectly encapsulates Heathcliff's descent into his hate-filled madness. Whether you dodge, block, or just refuse to die out of spite, one thing is certain, those in the manor will receive what is due. Also, I have a poll up on my community tab and I'd really appreciate it if you could just provide an answer there. Thanks.